Greetings and welcome back to the channel, where we painstakingly reveal the complex dramas taking place behind the opulent doors of the British monarchy. We examine a profound change that has occurred within the House of Windsor today. King Charles III was compelled to make a tough and significant decision about his younger brother, Prince Andrew, as a result of a painful but necessary reckoning. We're discussing the unavoidable fact that the Duke of York's protracted involvement in controversy has finally reached an unsupportable tipping point. Public and royal observers' pressure has resulted in a decisive move that has radically changed Andrew's relationship with the crown and solidified his exile from the center of royal life. It's not just about titles here. It's regarding the institution's longevity and integrity. Please take a moment to express your support before we go into the specifics of this important decision and the reasons why the sovereign has to step in. To ensure that you never miss our in-depth analyses of royal affairs, please remember to hit the notification bell, like this video, and subscribe if you haven't already. Your participation enables us to reveal these intricate stories. The crushing burden of scrutiny. The generally meticulously manicured image of the British royal family, colloquially known as the firm, has been plagued for years by the figure of Prince Andrew, the former Duke of York. As the late Queen Elizabeth II kept a protective posture toward her second son, but the arrival of King Charles III marked the beginning of a new, more practical age in which public opinion and institutional stability would completely supersede sentimental attachments. Unrelenting public demands served as the impetus for the most recent bold move. An urgent and overwhelming cry was ultimately accepted and acted upon by the royal family on October 17, a date that is now inscribed in the recent history of this continuing royal crisis. Millions of Britons made this loud and insistent call, and it was echoed by a number of well-known royal specialists and observers worldwide. It is imperative that the disgraced member of the House of Windsor be deprived of all remaining official privileges and distinctions. The monarchy, which frequently takes a while to respond to internal turmoil, was unable to ignore the outcry any longer. The monarch, King Charles, and the highest-ranking members of the royal court were forced to meet and discuss a plan that would protect the crown's image, even at the expense of causing a family member great personal suffering. Undoubtedly, the heated conversations that took place behind the palace gates focused on how urgent it was to get rid of this ongoing source of bad press. The declaration and the title surrender. In an attempt to lessen the harm, Prince Andrew issued a statement that was presented to the public as a voluntary surrender. The prince formally announced in this well-crafted statement that he would no longer use his primary nobility designation, the Duke of York's title, and any other awards that may still be due. The statement's justification was enlightening. According to Andrew, this move was made so as not to overshadow the royal family's admirable efforts. The truth, as perceived by palace insiders, was much more coercive, despite the fact that this wording implies a selfless motivation, a care for the public duty and philanthropic activities of his relatives. This decision was not the result of a selfless act. The king had issued the ultimatum. The renowned title, which has been established for generations and is usually given to the monarch's second son, has become an albatross around the institution's neck. The elimination of the Duke of York usage is a significant symbolic action in the wake of his. He lost his Royal Highness position and military affiliations earlier in 2022 when Virginia Dewey filed a civil case against him. The seriousness of the problem and the extent of the public's long-standing mistrust are highlighted by the royal family's desire to further distance themselves from him by demanding the cessation of his most recognizable title. The origin of the controversy. Geoffrey and Epstein. One must go back to the beginnings of Prince Andrew's decline in popularity in order to fully comprehend the significance of the king's choice. The prince has been the subject of unfavorable international headlines for years, mostly because of his infamous connection to the late convicted sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein. The specifics of this friendship, or rather, this relationship, that lasted years and entailed traveling and interacting with people in very dubious circles, were made public. Even after Epstein's original conviction, Andrew's visits to his different houses were discovered, which seriously damaged Epstein's reputation. This problem was exacerbated by Virginia Giuffre's devastating public accusation. Miss Giuffre, who had been trafficked by Epstein, claimed in graphic detail that Prince Andrew had sexually abused her several times while she was a teenager. Despite Andrew's constant and adamant denial of all of Miss Jewess' allegations, the public backlash was disastrous and swift. His efforts to discredit him, particularly his catastrophic 2019 interview with BBC Newsite, only made the situation worse. Crisis, which resulted in several charges of insensitivity, evasiveness, and a severe lack of comprehension of the gravity of the accusations made against him. Andrew's eventual resignation from his public obligations was compelled by the civil case that Ms. Giuffre brought in the United States. Andrew has always maintained that the payment was not an admission of guilt, even though the case was settled out of court for a significant unknown sum. There was no way to repair the harm. The financial and trust-related costs to the monarchy were incalculable. The king becomes impatient. The email leak. When it appeared that the recent events created new shame and greatly supported the king's ultimate intervention because the situation could not get worse. After new evidence, specifically, an email exchange, was leaked to the public, Andrew, Sarah Ferguson's ex-husband, was once again under heavy examination. This specific email was extremely harmful because it was sent to a controversial financier whose actions generated severe ethical concerns. Importantly, the public and media perceived the context and content of this message as severely disparaging King Charles and the senior members of the royal family. Whether explicitly stated or implied, the leak revealed that Andrew was still making use of his old royal ties and rank, as well as possibly those of his closest family in ways that went against the Crown's moral principles. The king's new reign, which is centered on modernization, transparency, and lowering the expense and controversy of the monarchy, was rocked by this episode. The idea that his brother's continued dubious relationships were now actively damaging his own authority and public image was the last straw for King Charles, who has painstakingly worked for decades to build his reputation as a responsible and conscientious man. To stop the infection's source, extreme steps have to be taken right away. The exiled brother and the royal decree. Prince Andrew was under more than just outside pressure. It become intensely personal and institutional. According to extremely credible sources, including one that was reported by the Mirror, Andrew was directly confronted by senior royals, possibly even the king himself, in a private and very serious meeting. The message that was delivered was a stark and unforgiving ultimatum, asking him plainly what else was likely to come out of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. This was the central question that would determine his future. Was there more scandal in the making? Were there more uncomfortable truths, more damaging associations, or more incriminating communications that had not yet come to light? Andrew's response was the most worrisome aspect of all. Declared that he was unable to provide any assurances. His fate was determined by his incapacity to offer assurance. The ruler and his advisors could not afford to let another round of damaging disclosures catch the institution off guard. The foundation of the monarchy's operations is trust, reliability, and a deliberate separation from the shadowy realm of well-publicized financial and personal problems. Because of his uncertainties, Andrew continued to be a ticking time bomb. The scandal has engulfed the royal family for far too long, forcing the king to intervene and effectively banish him from royal life, one insider said, encapsulating the general attitude within the palace. Here, the idea of expulsion is crucial. Physically leaving the royal estates is not always required. Although Andrew continues to live at Royal Lodge, this represents a complete and irrevocable break from institutional support, formal responsibilities, and any appearance of being a working royal. He is now essentially a private citizen with the ambiguous title of prince still attached. Perpetually disenfranchised and dependent on the king's personal funds to sustain him. The ominous memoir of Khan, the impending threat. Prince Andrew and the monarchy face a serious threat in the near future, which would probably hasten the king's recent strong moves, if the current state of affairs weren't already dire enough. The nightmare for Andrew is far from over. Because the memoir of Virginia Duffy is about to be published. The royal family has just a few days to get ready for what might be yet another terrible round of revelations, since the memoir is scheduled to be released this coming Tuesday. An alleged memoir has special weight since it provides the accuser's last, unvarnished viewpoint. It is anticipated that this book will include more startling information than what has already been made public by the court papers and interviews, given Ms. Joffa's lengthy, persistent, and comprehensive charges. This release has enormous potential to harm the monarchy. Regardless of whether it results in legal action, every new piece of information erodes public confidence and compels the palace to spend valuable resources on damage control. Within royal circles, the publication of this memoir is not only seen as a regrettable media incident but also as a serious institutional danger that will further harm the monarchy's already tarnished public image. The King's hasty decision on October 17 to complete the revocation of Andrew's remaining status was most likely a preemptive measure, a means of letting the public know just before the memoir is published that the institution has already taken the harshest possible action against the prince in an effort to shield the crown from the expected backlash. The strategic priorities of King Charles. King Charles III's actions demonstrate a strategic need to reduce the size of the monarchy and guarantee the highest standards of behavior among the main working royals. In contrast to his late mother, who frequently, Charles is displaying a resolute dedication to the institution's long-term viability by placing a higher priority on personal devotion and a desire for reconciliation. The continuous Andrew controversy depletes funds, dominates the media, and diverts attention away from the important work that Charles, Queen Camilla, the Prince and Princess of Wales, and other important family members do. The monarch is making a clear statement by making Andrew give up his titles and thus barring him from living as a royal. When the crown's integrity is at risk, compromise is not an option. The monarchy must come across as cohesive, moral, and service-oriented. Prince Andrew was an unbearable person because he could not ensure that no more harmful material would surface. Liability. Although it was traumatic for Charles as a brother, his removal was seen as necessary for the government. The king is securing his position of authority and making sure that his reign is characterized by stability and accountability rather than ongoing crisis management stemming from previous transgressions. The Duke of York title has important symbolic meaning as well. It is a title that historically suggests a particular level of seniority and willingness to assist the king. Charles indicates that Andrew is permanently unfit for any such function, both now and in the future, by requesting that it be disused. In all senses, he has been pushed to the sidelines. Someone who is seen but never formally heard or approved by the monarchy. Chatham. In conclusion, an agonizing necessity. What we have seen is a severe constitutional and public relations need, not just a family dispute. The senior royals had to make a critical decision on October 17 as a result of Prince Andrew's inability to convince King Charles of the true scope of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and the constant pressure from the British people. As a result, Andrew is officially stripped of his remaining royal responsibilities and exiled from the monarchy's operational core. The current email leak and the impending release of Virginia Urey's fictitious biography this Tuesday only serve to highlight how wise and urgent the king's intervention is. Charles has clearly drawn a line in the sand, putting the crown's prestige ahead of his brother's comfort. This incident undoubtedly makes us think a lot about the changing expectations placed on contemporary royalty and the close scrutiny that is now placed on all past and present actions. Prince Andrew has discovered, perhaps too late, that being close to the crown comes with a price: complete accountability. We're interested in your thoughts on this significant choice. How do you feel with King Charles's bold move? Should the monarchy take other measures to permanently deprive Andrew of his princely rank, or do you think this banishment is adequate? Kindly provide your thoughts and observations in the space provided for comments below. As we continue to follow the happenings in the House of Windsor, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for our next in-depth celebrity and royal report. We appreciate you seeing, and we eagerly await your feedback. For now, goodbye.